Excuse me. Okay. Everyone ready?
Sir,
Yeah, go ahead.
good morning, sir. Sir, related to the task that you gave us to build that tic-tac-toe game, so I was just thinking about it and I kind of got lost. I mean, where should I start from?
Okay. So start by thinking the data structure that you are going to use to represent the board and how
Mm-hmm.
you are going to print it on the screen. To give
Okay.
you a hint,
Uh,
suppose I make a list of lists, a nested list, something like this. Okay. And initially I have empty spaces, simply like this. Now, how can I print it in the format that I want? Let's say board, right? For line in board, print line. It might look something like this, right?
hmm.
Or you can use a double loop where after printing, you can write separator is equal to and then give something like this. Let's see, for line in board, for I in line, print I. Okay, so right now these are all spaces. Okay, let's try end is equal to this. So it prints like this, and here I am also going to do print. Let's say something like this, right? So I don't want to give you the exact solution, but something like this, where this after these three lines there should be these lines, then after these three there should be this line, right?
Hmm.
So you should create it like a board first. How do you represent that board?
Okay.
Okay, very importantly, right? You can also have like dashes everywhere in the beginning.
Hmm.
Suppose you put dashes everywhere. Zoom in a little bit. Yeah. Suppose I did this. Now what I really want is here for the end to be backslash n, let's say. Separator is what I want, right? And in the end, I would also like to print. Yeah. Are you getting the idea? Slowly and steadily, I'm going to just make the board more and more clear,
Yeah.
right? When I
Hmm.
do that, that will basically help me. Suppose now I do print and then I do this, right? And this I would do end is equal to simple space. Are you seeing the board getting created?
Yes. Yes.
Right? Then I'm going to just increase the spaces. So this design, you will have to think about it.
Huh.
This design will eventually like look like a entire board.
Yeah. Like I am asking like in a broader sense. First, I just set up the board shape. Uh, then what? Like,
After you set up the board space, you have to see how do you take user input and you take the position from the user. Suppose user gives you that user's automatic, let's say the input the user will give is a
huh.
cross or a O, right?
Huh.
So you will have to basically say input one or input two. I mean user one or user two. If
Okay.
user one is hitting, then you are going to put cross. You are going to ask the user, where do you want to put it? 0,0 or 0,1 or right. So 0,0, 0,1, 0,2, 1,
So I have
0,
to
1,
treat it like a matrix.
yeah, you'll always obviously you'll have to treat it like a matrix.
ठीक है.
Okay. So then I mean every instance you are just going to print the board. So you should actually be creating that code where you can print the board also, right? So you see now the board is created in a way.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So how do we take input alternatively from the user?
So basically let's say user one starts. Okay, so user one is equal to true, user two is equal to false, right? Now if user one equal to true, I am going to take the action, take input, and then set user underscore one equals to false. And also I am going to set user underscore two is equal to true. So every time I'm going to compare, is user one true or user two true? Whichever one is true, I'm going to take their corresponding action, set themselves to false and set the other one to true. So in the next chance, the user two will have true and the user one will have false. So this same will come else if user underscore two equals to true,
Okay. Okay.
right? Then I take from them the input. I said user two false and user one true. And this will all run in a while loop,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
While condition of success equals to false,
False.
right? Inside the code, you will also check the board, right? In the board, you will just add these values together.
We have to make sure
Add the
that
values together. Either it can be like this, like this, like this, or it can be 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, like that. Or it can be diagonal also 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2,
yes.
or
And
0, 2, 1, 1, and 2, 0.
we'll also have to make sure that no user overrides any position, right?
Yes. So when you are going to do this, right, take input and then you are going to put input. Here you will first check.
Yeah. Okay.
Clear? Great. Guys, can we start now?
Yes, sir.
Everyone ready? Just type a quick yes on the chat so I know everyone's ready. Great. Our topic of discussion for today will be Python functions. Now, what is a function? The first important thing for you to understand here is, why do we need a function? A function is basically a compilation or aggregation of a lot of lines of code that perform some general task. And that general task might be required at different places in the code. Okay, I'll give you an example. Suppose when I'm working with in a data science project, I have a database connection. I have a let's say server connection. I have a backend connection. I have a front end connection, etc., etc. So whenever I run any code, I run any code. When will I run any code? Depending on what the user wants. Okay. Suppose the user asks me that I want to execute this, or I want to execute this, or I want to execute this. So for all those executions, I need to have these connections done before I can proceed with my objective. Is that clear, everyone? Yes or no? Guys online?
Yes.
Logic? Suppose you are using Gmail, right? You might want to send an email, forward an email, download an attachment, or do XYZ of 10 other things, right? For all of them, you need to be connected to the Google's databases, right? So this database connection, server connection, backend or frontend is a repeated general task. So whenever I want to run my code, I don't want to run these 4 lines of code together. What am I going to do? I am going to encapsulate into a connection function. I will make a function, which is the connection function. I will pass my connectors. Connectors are basically parameters, right? This could be ID, password, right? This could be the link of the server, etc., etc. Then I will make the connections here, right? I will write all the individual 4 lines, line 1, line 2. I will write all the lines that I wanted to write, just to be sure that all my connections are made. And then I will just return my connector, which is basically going to access my database, right? In the code, it will be connector dot get db products list, something like this, right? It will be something like this in the code. So this particular function actually encapsulates a lot of individual code, which I would have had to write again and again, call again and again, whenever I wanted to use any functionality of my program. Okay. So this function, once created, now can be accessed anywhere in a single line of code. In a single line of code, this function can be accessed anywhere in my code, right? Right, I can actually access it very later in some other part of my code as well, right? So what this function is doing is giving me the access to the process, which is very generalized and repeated in a very simple format. So I don't have to write multiple lines of code. That's it. Clear, everyone? Yes, no? Logic clear hai ki nahi, pehle ye bataiye, then we'll discuss something else. Is the logic or understanding of why we need functions clear? Each and every one of you.
Yes.
Guys, I don't see thumbs up. I don't see yes. I don't hear you guys saying yes. What's it? I know it's morning, Sunday morning. We're all a little not so energetic, but let's try. We have 1.5 hours, no? And this is very interesting. I'm going to show you some interesting insights into functions. Okay. Now, if you really look at it, there is another advantage. The advantage is now, because the function is a generic function and things like the ID, password, and link are like parameters or variables that I can pass, I can connect to multiple databases, all the individual ones. So suppose I have a AWS cloud architecture, and I have an Azure cloud architecture. Also, I have a GCP cloud architecture. All of these have my individual database connections, right? The ones which I said, backend, front end, database, security database, transactional database, product database, etc., etc. All of these have these individual database connections. Now I can use this same function to access individual database, obviously, but I can also access AWS, Azure, GCP individually without having to write additional code. So whatever things vary, I can put them as a parameter and my function becomes absolutely generic and generalizes to a lot of applications in a single line of code. Okay. So there are two parts to a function. Okay. The first part is basically your function definition, where you define the behavior / actions of the function. Second part is the function call, where you call the function with data parameter values and get the output in return. Okay, let's see an example. To define the function, I need to use the def command. The def command in Python defines a function. Let's say the function is calculate area. It takes two parameters, length and breadth. Okay. It calculates the result, which is length into breadth, which is the area of a rectangle. I'm just assuming it's a rectangle here. And then I use the return keyword to share the result back to the code that is calling that is going to call this function, right? So this is my function definition, right? Now, once that function definition is created in my code, Python knows that to calculate area, Python is going to expect length and breadth. It is going to multiply length and breadth, store it in a variable called result, and then it is going to return the result to whoever is calling this function. Okay. Now, the function call, right? Here, I am going to call my function calculate area. And now I am going to pass real values. Length is equal to 10. Breadth is equal to 5. And then you can see 10 multiplied by 5. I got the answer 50 when I call this function. Is that clear, everyone? Yes or no? Yeah. So everyone quickly implement your first function, create a volume function and call the volume function and see if everything is working smoothly for you as well. And then we'll move to more complex aspects of the function.
Hello, sir. I have one question. Like, if we define the function, then it will be only applicable in that particular file, or in whole. Like, we use 4 or 5 tabs, and we can use any.
Only one tab. A notebook is encapsulated in memory, so nothing goes out of the notebook. Just imagine, what if you want to have different kinds of functions in different types of code, right? Suppose आपने यहाँ पे एक I10 define कर दिया, I is equal to 10. Now, if you go to another notebook, I will be 10 there. That's a problem, no? So you get a fresh slate, a fresh sheet whenever you open a new notebook. So notebooks are not connected to each other. Cells within a notebook are connected to each other. Okay.
Got it.
Great, guys. Create your first function and let me know once it's done. Yes, Indrani, you will have to remember the name of the functions that you have defined. Okay, guys, so let's do it. Define volume, length, breadth, height, return length into breadth into height, calling the function volume with 5, 10, 15, and I get 750. Now, the solution that you guys have written and the solution that I have written is going to be a little different. Does anyone have any questions here? between my solution and your solution?
We didn't assign a variable to volume and just return the result.
Yeah. So
So
always
less
remember,
less code.
in Python, suppose you do A is equal to 10 and B is equal to A, then it's actually easier to say B is equal to 10, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right? So I was doing result is equal to length into breadth into height. And then I was going to do return result. I just removed the redundancy and directly added length, breadth, height here. Because the length into breadth into height is going to get calculated first, and the combined output is going to be shared, is going to be returned, right? So I can directly do the return if I have a simpler value, right? I mean, if you have a if else kind of a situation, then it will be different, right? But I can directly return the output. Any other questions? Okay. You would have also seen that here I did not write L is equal to or B is equal to or H is equal to. Why did I not write it? Any ideas, anything that comes to mind here? Why did I not write the variable names?
As it is a function, it is already defined that it will take values corresponding to the LB and H.
Yes, but can Python consider B to be 5 and L to be 10? Is that possible?
No, we are writing in the sequential manner, so it should not.
Okay,
Like in other functions in Excel as well, when we write the syntax appears, so it is the given position where we need to put the values only.
okay. Now let's say there are a lot of variables I want to add and I don't remember the sequence. Then how will I do it? Okay. So this is our next topic of discussion, which is the types of arguments. The types of arguments, right? These can be called arguments or parameters. The way it works is when you define a function, L, B, and H. Here, L, B, and H are basically going to be called arguments of the function. And when you call the function, then they are going to be called parameters of the function. So the actual value that you pass is the parameter. And when you define it, it's called the arguments. Clear? All of you? Yes? Okay. So there are different kinds of arguments. The first is positional argument. This is where the sequence is predefined and I can pass the values in sequence, right? The second is keyword arguments, right? Keyword arguments is where I can send the value to the function using the keywords defined. So I can actually do H is equal to 5, L is equal to 10, and let's say B is equal to 15. I'm not going to multiply them. Let's say I create a temporary function where L into B plus H happens. Okay, something like this, so that the values are different. If I do this, right, L into B plus H, there is some issue. Just a second. Volume call kar raha hu na main. Yes. So I got 155. Now if I change this to B and this to H, then I got 65, right? So the position, if I would have directly passed on to it, it would have been a problem. But when I call keyword arguments, then I can always have this as keywords directly. Okay. So now I don't need to worry about the sequence. I can pass the values in any order as long as the value that I'm passing is also attached to the argument that it is supposed to take in the function. Is that clear, everyone? Yes, no? Any questions, guys? Okay, Asim, I'm saying that if I pass them as a sequential order, okay, then it will go to L, B, and H, right? 5 will go to L, 10 will go to B, 15 will go to H. But if I don't remember the order or the sequence, I can always use the keyword argument directly like this. But the moment I use a keyword argument, the problem is that I am going to have to use all of them as keyword arguments. Okay. Once I select a keyword argument, all the others also have to be a keyword argument, because you can understand clearly, if I would have done this, Python knows that 5 goes to L, but then it is not going to put 10 directly to B and 15 directly to H, because it is expecting you to explicitly state 10 goes to which value and 15 goes to which value. So whenever you want to avoid the issue of remembering the sequence, the order in which variables are passed, you should always make sure that you pass it as keywords. Okay, these are the keyword arguments. Clear, everyone? Yes.
Sir, when you're saying pass means calling. When I call it.
No, pass means, see, the function is a generic function, right? From the function, I am having to pass this value 5 to L here inside the function. 10 gets passed to B, and then 15 gets passed to H. Then the calculation inside the function happens, right? That is what we mean by passing the value.
But सर आप ये temp जो है लिखा है वो आप कॉल कर रहे हो ना वो फंक्शन को?
Yes.
तो कॉल करते टाइम पे I have to explicitly put the variables to make understand कौन सा वेरिएबल को कौन सा वैल्यू अटैच्ड है.
जरूरी नहीं है, आप चाहो तो 5, 10, 15 पास कर सकते हो. We saw that was working, right?
हाँ हाँ हाँ.
वर्क कर रहा है. बट नाउ हर बार ये सीक्वेंस रिमेंबर रखना या मतलब पॉसिबल नहीं होता है, बिकॉज अभी ये 3 वेरिएबल का फंक्शन है. मैं आपको पांडास का एक फंक्शन दिखाता हूँ क्विकली. ये पांडास का एक फंक्शन है, इसमें देखो कितने वेरिएबल्स हैं. अब आपको हर बार तो याद नहीं रहेगा ना. दैट इज व्हाई यू शुड रिमेंबर द कीवर्ड्स की प्रीफिक्स ये है, स्किप रोज ये है, डे फर्स्ट ये है, कैश डेट्स ये है. So that is why you should also have the knowledge and understanding of using keywords directly.
Okay. Yeah.
Guys, any questions here? Anyone? Take your time, look at the code. If you find any questions or any confusion, let's resolve that right now.
Hello, Pranjal. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, like, when you specify the value, you have to be specific. Like, this value, it goes to the this variable, like this arguments, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you when you like not specific, then it takes as a default. Like LBH, you pass the 5, 10, 15, and it takes as a default.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. The third argument type is called a default argument. What is the advantage of the default argument? I don't need to pass it all the time. I don't need to pass the value all the time. If I pass the value, it overwrites. Okay. Suppose H is equal to 1, right? In this particular case, now I don't need to pass the third value. I can directly pass the 5 and 10. It will calculate 5 into 10, 50 plus 1, which is why I got 51. So H is now my default argument. Okay. Suppose H was not a default argument, and then I would have called the value with LNB only. Then it would say the temp function is missing one required positional argument h. It is expecting 3 arguments and I passed only 2, right? But let's say I know that h has a default value of 1. When I do that, if I do not pass h, things will work fine. H will be considered as 1. If I pass h, let's say I pass 5, then the value of h gets overwritten to 5, and then I get 5 into 10 plus 5, which is 55. Is that clear, everyone? Yes or no? Guys, all of you? Right? So yeah, this was the basic understanding, the 3 different types of arguments. Okay. I'd also like to discuss the scope of variables within the function. Okay. Define. My function. Okay. A comma B. Sum of AB is equal to A plus B. Return sum of AB. When I do this, my function, this is, I have defined my function. Now I'm going to call my function. My function 3 comma 4, and it gives me 7. Okay. Now this variable, sum of AB, when I try to find the value here, it says name error. Name sum of AB is not defined. But here I have actually defined sum of AB, and it is the sum of A and B. Right? This is what is concerned with the scope of a variable or scope of an identifier. The sum of AB exists only within the function scope, not outside the function. So if you use this sum of AB within the function anywhere, it is going to work. Suppose sum of AB, when I do that, when I do this, it is able to access sum of AB. It is also able to return this, right? So it is able to access this variable, but outside my function, it is not able to access my variable. Why is that? Because the scope of this variable is only restricted within the function. It does not exist outside the function. Is that clear, everyone? Not global. Yes, Motion. It is not global. Any questions? Anyone? It is a local variable to the function Asim. Yes, you are correct. Now let me show you an interesting idea. Suppose my underscore constant is equal to 100. Inside the function, I am going to do sum of AB. Total is equal to sum of AB plus my underscore constant. And I am going to return my underscore constant. Right? This line is no longer needed. Suppose this is my new function. When I execute this function and I call this function, you are able to see that it is giving me 100. I should have done total. It is giving me 107. What is 107? It is the sum of AB, which is 3 plus 4, plus my constant, right? So what happened here? My constant was a variable that was defined outside the function, but it was still accessible inside the function. Why? because my constant is a global variable. It is the value defined in the main Python file, not within a function, not within a method, not within anything else. It is defined at the main notebook Python level, right? Main file level. And this constant or this global variable is accessible inside my function. Clear, everyone? Function variables are not accessible outside, but outside variables are accessible within the function. Is that understood by each and everyone? Yes. Now let's say I do my underscore constant is equal to 500. What will be the value when I call this function now?
507.
Okay. What if I try to print my constant here then?
Outside the function, the value will still be 100.
Sorry, please be a little louder. I can't hear you, Madhura.
I said the outside the function, the value of my constant will still be 100.
Okay. Okay. So both the answers are correct. When I call the function now, I get 507. And when I print my constant outside the function, I get 100. So what happened here? Inside the function, I had defined my constant here. Then when I try to access my constant, this is where we need to understand that the first priority whenever you access a variable is given to within the function scope. The first priority is given to that variable existence within the function scope. Because that variable existed within the function scope, my constant was accessed to be 500. If this my constant would have not been available within the function, then my code would have looked outside to any global existence of my constant. Is that clear, everyone? So first it will check within the function scope. If it does not find it, then it will go and check in the global scope. But the global scope variables cannot be changed within the function, because whatever changes happen within the function are specific to that function scope. They are not, I can say, they are not reflected outside the function. Is that clear, everyone? Yes or no? Logically, fundamental idea. All of you?
Sir,
Yes, Pranavi.
the arguments should be of the same data type.
So it
And
depends on what your function does. Suppose your function is adding the variables A and B. Now, if you pass 4 and 5, then obviously there will be an error because A will be 3 and B will be 5 in strings. So it cannot do the addition, right? So if I do this, it will give you the error that you are expecting, right? So arguments should be of the same type. Iska koi limitation nahi hai. Arguments should be processable together.
Okay, जैसे and if I want only float type data type to be given, मेरा ये condition है कि सिर्फ float values लेना है, तो मैं कैसे दे सकती हूँ?
So you want to restrict at your level. So you cannot restrict anything at the Python level. ठीक है? मतलब ये value a float ही होना चाहिए. ये आप Python के level पे restrict नहीं कर सकते. But आप क्या कर सकते हो? आप function के ही starting में बोल सकते हो if type of a not equal to float, raise exception. Raise is to actually generate your own exception. कल हमने जो try और accept देखा था, right? उसके अंदर name error, value error और वो सब था. अगर आपको अपना एक exception create करना है, then you can use the raise keyword. Raise exception. A cannot be anything other than a float. ठीक है? तो जब भी ये raise exception होता है ना, तो ये वाली सारी चीजें रुक जाती हैं. Nothing happens after that. So let's say I call my function like this. अभी भी integer है तो it should not work. And you can see exception आ गया. A cannot be anything other than a float. Clear है? तो ये
Yes.
Python restrict नहीं कर सकता है.
Okay.
Okay? आपको restrict करना पड़ेगा by raising exceptions wherever you want to enforce a data type.
And
Like
and
Pranjal, hello.
One second, let Pranavi complete.
Mhm.
and similarly, one more question. Like, I want, suppose B, it should not be negative. I want only positive integers. So same, I have to restrict at my level, right?
Yes, yes.
So inside the function, I have to write this thing.
Yes.
ठीक है, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Someone else had a question. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I have question. If I pass 5 plus 5.3, so it's what?
5 plus 5.3.
Yeah,
Here,
like yeah, like A plus B. So I pass the A is equal to 5 and B is equal to 5.3.
yeah, why will it not work? Because I can add integers to floats, right? I can always add integers to floats.
Okay.
That will work. So this line, this code has to be executable without any errors. Right? I mean, you guys are looking at this. I can actually pass A, B, and everything as string also. If I define this 500 as string, and then I divide this 5 and this as string, it will do string concatenation. It just did string concatenation. Is that clear, everyone? 5 plus 5.3 became 55.3, and then plus 500 became 500. So it got a string concatenation output. Clear, everyone? Any questions? Great. So there are a few functions here. Let's say we do this. We've already discussed this. Okay, one thing I think which I might have missed is when you do define function name, right? You pass all the arguments. So A1, A2, all the things that you want the function to take as input. And then this colon signifies the end of the function definition. Just like it was in if A equal to 10, this colon specified the end of the if else block, right? So that colon wala part we missed. And then return is obviously there. Calling a function we've already seen. Return statement, function arguments, yes. So we have seen required arguments, which is also like a positional argument, keyword arguments, and default arguments. One thing we need to see is variable length arguments. Now, what is a variable length argument? Okay, let's go back to our original section where we were. Yeah. Okay. Now, do you all remember the length function? Or let's say the sum function, right? So the sum function was applied on list of any size. Yes or no? It was applied on list of any size. My list could be like very long, small, medium size, whatever. But my sum function was applicable on this. So if I want to replicate this function, my sum, okay, and I take input A, something like this, right? The problem with that is I don't want my sum to just take one input. It should take variable length inputs, right? It should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like this, right? And I should be able to add them all up, right? And then return the sum, something like this, right? This is the essence of variable length argument. So I can define a function, which is my func. I can define A, comma B, and then to define a variable length function, I'm going to use a star parameter, the star keyword. This star operation and any keyword after that, which is any variable after that, tells Python that this takes variable length arguments. Variable length means it can be 0 length, it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, anything, right? So first 2 is equal to A plus B. Variable length is equal to sum of C. Okay, and then final is equal to first two plus variable length. Okay, and I return final. Suppose this is my function. What this gives me the advantage is I can first choose the primary A and B. I can pass 5 and 10. If I just pass 5 and 10, it still gives me the right result. It gives me 15. Why? Because C is a variable length parameter and the variable length can actually be 0 also. No element passed there. If I pass one element, it is going to add that one element. If I pass two elements, it is going to pass those two elements. And now I can actually pass as many elements as I want, and it is going to add all of them up. So to add these many ingredients, to add these many elements, I did not have to create these many arguments to the function. Is that understood, everyone?
Sir, so A and B are like required arguments for
Yes.
this function.
Yes.
Okay.
I was just trying to give you an idea of how do you merge the normal functions that you create and then you get variable length. So Indrani, first tell me, where is your doubt? Which part are you not clear about? Third line, which is this one. This line. Yeah, so this is just adding A and B plus I am summing the variable length words, right? So this 15, 20, 25 till 40 gets passed as C. Sum of all of these gets calculated here. A and B, which is 5 and 10, get calculated here. So 5 and 10 is 15. And then all of these remaining are calculated here from 15 to 40. And I'm just adding both of them. Okay. So you still have a confusion? Let me know. Anyone else has any questions here? Any doubts?
Like you can pass more than one parameter, right?
Yes. That is why it's called variable length argument.
Yes, yeah.
No, Jayanta, that's not going to happen. If A and B are integers and we pass a string in the variable length, it will not concatenate because integers and strings cannot be added together. Okay. If it is not applicable here, it is not going to be applicable anywhere in the code. Doesn't matter if you have variable length, default, positional, keyword, does not matter. That operation is invalid that you are trying to do. Okay. Guys online, clear, everyone? Yes. So that was largely the functions discussion. You will see a lot of detail here in individual part. You can actually go through that detail, but we fairly discussed each and every aspect that we need to know. Okay. Scope of variables we've also discussed, global and local variable. It's the same thing that we just did. Okay. Coming to nested functions. Now this is where a function is such that, by the way, do you guys want a 5 minutes break or should I continue? Or let's say we can do a task now. Let's do a good task, hands-on. Okay, let's build a function that takes the names of students from the students list and converts, or let's say, and returns the short forms of the names. Okay. Suppose I have students is equal to, let's see all the students. We have Abdul Rahman. We have Abhinav Srivastav. Okay. We have Akansha. we have Arya, right? And we have Asim. Okay. Suppose this is my student list. This has students. I want you to write a function that is going to convert these into the final output. Let's say these are, what is it called? Short form of the name, or I think it's called something else. But basically what I'm looking for the result is AR, right? AS, A, just A, AB, and again AB. Is that clear, everyone? This is the input and this is the output, right? Initials. Yes, thanks, Riddhi, for that. I want the initials as output. Okay. So this being the input, I sent it specifically to Jayanta. I want this. Okay. Guys, make sense, everyone? So we want to write a function which takes a list as an input and returns another list as output. And from the list, it is going to pick up the names and then it is going to get the initials of the names. Clear? Guys online, yes, no? Everyone, remember we are going to use the string data type a lot. We are going to use the dot split. We will need the dot join, right? We are going to create a list where we are going to do the append of the initials and then we are going to return the list. Okay, so lots of interesting tasks here. It combines a lot of answers. So let's do that. Let's build that function. Okay, let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm right here. Yeah, guys, what is the status? Do you guys need more time or should we discuss the solution? Anyone trying? Okay, okay, go ahead. Okay, guys, I think we've spent a lot of time. Let's look at the solution, and then you guys can map your answers with where you went wrong, or what are the few things that you could have added. Okay, guys, can we start? Everyone, I want everyone's focus back to my screen so we can start discussing. Okay, great. So, guys, what we need to realize is this is what we should start dealing with. First solve it for one, then make it a loop, then make it a function. Okay. Suppose we have Abdul's name here, right? How do I get his initials A and R? I will do name dot split on the basis of a space, right? I got this. Once I have this, let me give it the first and last name, something like this, right? What does my first and last name give me? It gives me a list. I can iterate over this list. For I in this, I am going to fetch I0. Okay. I am going to fetch I0, which is going to be my A and R, which is the credentials I want. But I want these credentials separated. So I will create a list here. Initials, right? And I am going to append the initials of Abdul's name, right? I got INI, right? Now I have the initials. Then I can use dot join to combine them together. Yes or no? Is this clear to everyone? All of these individual steps. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
All of you? Any questions here?
Sir, before dot join, why did you write this double quotes?
Because dot join is a method of a string, right? It can be applied only on a string.
Yes.
So this is that string. And also, remember when I said the dot join can join elements of a list. So it will either join like this or it will join like this, right? Because I do not need any space between the initial of the first name and the second name, a last name, I just kept it as blank. Okay.
Okay.
So when you pass that append I is equal to 0, then it gives an A and R, like it gives an as a split. A and R means Abdul Rahman. So take as a 0 from A from one side and R from another side. I
So
cannot
0
understand.
means you've seen
Mhm,
this, right? F underscore L underscore name.
mhm.
This 0 indicates the first letter of the first name and the last name. So whatever name, suppose someone has like 3 ones, okay, some Raj, some Kumar Singh. Let's say this is one name, okay. In case this is the name, I want to get RKS here, okay. So what am I getting? I am getting the 0th index, the first letter from each part of the name. Is that
Yes,
clear?
that's a yes. Yeah, first letter goes into it.
Okay. So now what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to merge all of them together. Okay.
Sir, this is what I used to get the initials. Uh, so which method is better?
So what you have done is a problem because you are considering that it has only like first name and second name only. My first name and last name. What if it has,
Right.
what if the person has a middle name? So
Right.
you have to generalize with a for loop. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So I had used it in a for loop, but I guess it will only find the first space and then stop.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So now I know that I had taken one name. I will just remove this. I will write for name in students list, which is my students. Okay. Right. I got this. Okay. At the students level, I want to create an output list also where I am going to append AR, then AS, then A, then AB and AB, right? So this is my output where I'm going to append the final input. Okay. Then this is my value output. I will have to put the output outside, let's say. Okay. This is where I split the name. After splitting the name, I am going to run a loop on the name split. After that, I am going to join the initials together, right? And once I join the initials together, I will do output dot append this entire value, right? When I do that output, I get my expected output. Is this clear to each and every one of you? Any questions? Look at the code, look at the solution, and see if you have any questions.
So why we are using that INI equals to a list, like it is blank list.
Yeah, so see, this is a blank list created in every part of, for every name. So first name will have initials A and R, then they will have A and S, right? So if it is already there, A and R is already there, then adding A and S will be an additional, right? So it will become ARAS. We don't want that. For each name, we want a fresh copy of the initials where we are going to append only the first letters of that name. Make sense?
Okay. Yes, good.
I just missed that part, the blank space after append. That
Yeah.
one, yeah. Why we use it?
I had already shown this when I explained the join part, right?
Yeah, you come again. Right.
Okay. We have this I and I, okay? A and B. Now I want to join A and B together. But join is a method of the string data type. So this is the empty string. Then I do join of I and I. So it combines the A and B together. If I would have kept something here like percentage, then it would have combined with percentage. For this, I think you will need to go back to the strings notebook and check out the methods that we discussed, dot split and dot join. It will be more clear. Okay.
Thank you.
Guys, are we clear with the solution? Yes, no? All of you. Any questions remain? Okay. Let's start with the next topic, which is nested functions. Okay. When one function is either defined within another function or when one function calls another function, both of those cases are treated as nested functions. Okay. For example, if you look at this particular function, the volume function, it has an area function inside it, which calculates the area first, and then it calculates the volume. Is this understood? Everyone, look at this. Tell me which part is confusing, if there is any. Guys online. This is clear. So there was my area function, which takes length and breadth and returns L into B. Then here I have actually called the area function. So this is only the definition of the area function. Here is where I have called the area, where the L and B is coming from this L and B that the volume function has received. This L and B is what the volume function has received. That is getting passed here in the area function. And then my area function gets called and length into breadth gets calculated. Then I multiply with H, which is coming from my volume function, and that gives me the volume. This is one approach. Now what can I do? Volume 136. I get 18. Is this clear, everyone? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, the other way is I can define volume function separately, area function separately. Okay. The volume function takes area and height. So when I call the volume function like this, in the area expected input, I am going to call the area function with length and breadth. The area function will actually calculate the area and return the area here, which I'm going to keep here. And then the result of the area function's calculation gets passed to the volume function with the height. And then you get the final volume. Okay. Clear, everyone? Both these cases of nesting. Yeah. Now, can you tell me which one of these two is better? Or a particular case where you would be biased towards using one style of nested functions and not the other? Any particular orientation that I would like to go with this, Pranjal, because this reason?
But I will go with the second one
Okay, why?
because that it is clear. Like I first complete one function and then return the result into the other function. That is more clear to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would also go for the second one because I guess in the first method, the function area might have a scope limited to function volume.
Yes, that's correct. It has a scope limited to the volume function only. So yes, guys, the answer is correct. We should go with the second one. Why? Because if I want just area, I can get area. If I want volume, I can get volume. In this particular case, I can only get volume. I cannot get area because this function is not accessible to me outside the function. This function's existence is only within the function. Does that make sense, all of you?
Yes.
Yeah, this function's existence is only within the function. So in what cases should we use this? Any ideas? In what cases should we use the first way of defining functions?
So where my if there is a global area function and I want to overwrite it with another way of calculating area with for that specific volume.
Yes, so there's two aspects. One is which Madhura pointed out correctly. If I want to overwrite a function, then I'm going to add it within the function. Okay. The second is if my function becomes very long, if one of my function becomes very long and the internal code of that function is not useful elsewhere, okay, it is not useful elsewhere, then rather than calling volume, area, XYZ, ABC, DEF, and all the other functions, so many functions together in this particular case, I would just make one function which will internally have multiple functions. So I don't want to call the function with a lot of complexity. Let's say there is a function that has a lot of complexity, a lot of code. So I want to keep the complexity within the function. I don't want to add the complexity out of the function where I'm calling the function, because whenever I'm calling the function, if I have to call 10 other functions to compile and call that one function, that is when it becomes a little problematic. Is that clear, all of you? Right? These are just examples of the same thing. Yeah. Now, this is not very important, but I'd still like to discuss it because sometimes they ask it in interviews. What is a recursive function? It is a function that calls itself. Okay, it is a function that calls itself. For example, when we want to calculate factorial, do you all know that n factorial is equal to n multiplied by n minus 1 factorial? Do you guys remember this? Guys online?
Yes.
Right? Just give me 1 second. Hello, I'll call you later. I'm in a meeting. Okay. Great. So this particular function, n factorial, is a function that calls itself. Okay. This is where the application of a recursive function comes into play, because recursive functions are actually nested within themselves. Okay. If you want to look at the example of recursive function, this is one of the recursive functions. You can check it out. How does it work is also explained here. It's not very complicated. The idea is that suppose you want to get 3 factorial, right? Let's say 5 factorial here. Okay. So you do 5 multiplied by 4 factorial, right? So then 4 factorial will be calculated first, right? This will basically be calling this function here, 4 factorial. Now 4 factorial will again be a function that will do 4 into 3 factorial, right? Then again, you will need to call this function 3 factorial. 3 factorial is equal to 3 into 2 factorial, right? And then again, you will see that if n is equal to 2, then you return 2, because 2 factorial is 2, right? So once you are calling this function, which is 2 factorial, this is going to give you the result 2, right? Now, this particular 2 is going to be sent back to the previous function call of factorial. Okay, that is when you will get 3 into 2, which will be 6. So 3 factorial gave you 6. Once you get that result, this 6 is going to be passed to the 3 factorial again, right? And this will become 6. 6 into 4 becomes 24. This becomes 24. Then this 24 gets again back passed to 4 factorial, where the function was called. 4 factorial becomes 24. 24 multiplied by 5 gives you 120, and that gets returned to your original first function call. Is that clear, everyone? Guys online? Yes, no? Right? So you can see the example here. Okay. Error handling, we had already discussed that
So can
yesterday.
we go back again to the factorial
Yeah.
function?
Yeah.
We don't require a for loop for it to be called again and again.
No, no. Internally, so what happens is, see, one function, right, calls another. Okay, second function. So first the power was with the first function. The moment it called the second function, the power is with the second function. Until and unless this second function returns the power, it will never come back to first function. But second function gave power to the third function. Again, the function calls. Then it went to the fourth function. Now, once fourth function gets the actual result, the power gets transported back. Okay, that is when you get power back to the third function. Then third function calculates, you get power back from the third function to the second function. Then second function, and then finally first function. So you don't have to use a loop. The powers that are getting transferred between first, second, third, fourth, they act as the loop. Okay.
Got it, sir. Yeah.
Okay, error handling, we had already discussed the basic ones yesterday. One thing that we missed was finally. Okay, now we actually understood about try. This is normal code that I want to execute if everything works smoothly, right? Normal code that I want to execute. Except and its various parts, they get executed when some issue or error occurs, right? Now, finally gets executed no matter what. Error or no error, finally will be executed. Okay, that's the advantage of finally. You are going to put that code is inside finally that should run if your program runs smoothly, or even if your program gives you an error. Okay, because the except part is to catch errors and fix the errors if possible. The try part is to just run the code smoothly in the flow that it has. But if try fails and except runs, you might still have some code that you want to run in finally. Okay. Now, obviously, you can say, Pranjal, I can just add in the end, right? Finally actions here. And I can also add in the end, finally actions here. Okay. But the problem is you can have multiple types of except. You can have multiple types of excepts, right? We saw that yesterday. Name error, value error, type error, etc., etc. Then if we just put finally actions everywhere, this is like adding redundant code, right? So to replace all of this, we are just going to remove the finally actions from the except and actually add the finally actions here. So I have only had to have the finally actions once. Is that clear? I don't have to put finally actions anywhere else. I can directly put it in the finally. Let's quickly see an example. A is equal to 10, B is equal to 5. Try A divided by B. I'm going to print that. Okay. Except print there is some error. Okay. And finally, I run no matter what. I am shutting down the server and the database connection. Now you see, successful execution of the code, print A divided by B 2.0. I run no matter what, I am shutting down the server and the database connection. Error in the code, there is some error, but I will run no matter what, and I am shutting down the server and the database connection. Does that make sense, everyone? Finally executes. If your try executes or your except executes, does not matter. Finally is going to execute no matter what. Everyone clear with this? Any questions? So I can actually add multiple except blocks if I want. Okay. But the finally will remain the same. Okay.
The try and finally can appear only one in a code or in a function.
No, it can come as many times. So basically, every time you write a try, you have to write an except. Okay.
Right.
Finally is optional.
Okay.
Okay. But let's say you've done this. Now you can add another try.
Okay.
With try, except has to come, because I mean, obviously, if you're trying something, there has to be a counter action, right? Finally is not necessary, not mandatory. But let's say this tries for one part of your code. You can have multiple parts of your code which have try except. Okay.
Okay.
So, sir, finally will always be a statement,
Statement
means a print statement, like finally.
no. It can be any action. Print I showed you because right now we cannot create database connections and close them, open them, etc., etc. Print is just to show that that statement gets executed.
Okay.
Okay.
Like either return the result or return the error, right?
It will either return the result or return the error. In both the cases, it is going to run the finally
Finally.
wala. Okay. Yes. So if at any point of time you want to create an exception, or you want to, in technical terms, raise an exception. Suppose you are expecting the user to enter a numerical value and the user has entered a categorical value. So you want to actually raise the exception that I cannot take this categorical value. I want a number, right? So in this particular case, let's say you are taking age as an input. Okay. So I take age as an input. If the age is positive, then it is clearly taking the input perfectly. If I give a negative age, which does not make sense, you can see if age input is less than 0, raise exception and in the quotes, you are going to add what the error should show. Now, when I run it, 1 second, age cannot be negative. So it raised an exception where the age cannot be negative. So this you can use for value checking, type checking, validation of any other kind. When you are trying to take user input for two things, you should make sure that the type of both of those two things are the same, right? Or value should be greater or lesser. Okay. So yeah, I think this is where we'll stop for today. We had a stop at 10:45. In the next class, what I'd expect all of you to do is go through this entire NumPy ka code. Okay. This NumPy things that we have added here are very basic, very easy to understand. Go through the entire code. We'll discuss some fundamentals of NumPy, not in a lot of depth. But if you guys go through this and you have any questions, that will be great to handle them. Okay. NumPy, we were usually not covering to the previous batches, but one of our students had the feedback that they wanted to learn some bit of NumPy because it is useful in a lot of places. So that's when we added this NumPy section. So I would say solve the tic-tac-toe problem and go through the NumPy details and all the content that is added here in this notebook. I will share this notebook now. And then let me know if you guys have any questions. We'll touch upon NumPy, its use cases and its advantages in the next class, next Saturday. And then we will move to our next step, which is pandas. Okay, we'll move to our data analysis section. We'll start with working with data in Python. Hello. हाँ तू आ जा मेरे घर के नीचे. Okay, guys, functions and NumPy, functions, error handling, and NumPy notebook. Okay, are there any questions for me? All good? Okay. So guys, if you have any questions, do let me know. If you have any feedback, do let me know. I hope I was able to slow it down for a lot of people. I saw the feedback that the class should be a little slow. I speak a little fast. So I hope that was resolved for a lot of you. Okay, so we will continue with this pace only. So even if it takes a couple of more classes, that's fine. But the intention is for you all to be on the same page and learn well. Okay, great. So I'll see you all next week, 4 to 6 only. We are not going to change the time. If you guys want to prepone or postpone, let me know, depending on if you have other classes or not. But I don't think next week se aisa kuch hoga. So next week's class is going to be from 4 to 6. Okay. Have a good day, guys.
Pranjal, hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, next week, 5 to 7, maybe there is a SQL doubt clearing session. So Saturday. So I can join the up to 4 to 5. Okay, then after that I have to leave.
Oh, I don't want you guys to miss the next class at all because we are going to discuss pandas.
Yeah, NumPy libraries, yeah, NumPy pandas, right?
NumPy will be like 15-20 minutes in the beginning, but majorly we are going to discuss a lot about pandas.
Yeah,
So either you guys can communicate within yourselves and let me know your decision. If you want to prepone the next class, we can do that also. Because I think it's a doubt session, so it will not be every day. So for one day we can adjust, but I think other people have other classes also.
Yeah, it's for one last the last class and the doubt clearing session for SQL. It's taken by Pratik sir. So 5 to 7. So
then do one thing, like you can take ownership of this and you can post it in the class WhatsApp group. If everyone agrees, we can prepone, but I am not going to expect everyone to adjust, again and again. That is why. So I don't think if everyone has a SQL class, then it's different. But if only 1 or 2 people have, then it's going to be difficult to adjust.
Then the next 1 hour I will go through the recording part.
That also. Okay, great. So yeah, guys, happy weekend. Enjoy your Sunday. I'll see you all next week.
So one more thing, if you can have a little more like time to solve our assignments, especially with the SQL internship starting for working professionals.
I have no problem. Take as much as, see, I mean, the assignment wala section hai na, Smay, I genuinely feel that I shouldn't force anyone to do the assignments. I mean, we are all adults. We are all smart individuals. If we want to grow in our career, we should do what is needed. I mean, this is not a school, right? Ki homework karke lao warna class mein entry nahi denge, kind of like that. So I have no problem. Complete your assignments in due time, in your own time. The only thing I'd request and also suggest is कि when you do the assignments, do it with the right mindset. ठीक है, मतलब आप एक महीना मत करो assignment, but जब आप करोगे तो do it like with the utmost honesty and look for solutions, look online for different ways of doing the same thing वैसा, so that you really learn and not use it just as a homework that needs to be submitted with IB. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Cool. I have no problem. I mean, if you think there's any restriction from my side, it's not. Okay. Marking and grading ka hai, so you can request Rakib that there are multiple things I cannot do it. ठीक है. Cool. Any other questions? No? Great. I'll see you all Saturday, guys. Have a good day. Bye-bye. And you'll get the feedback form. Please share your feedback. Let me know if I need to improve on anything else. Bye-bye.